Good morning.
Welcome to our future new home of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, or as some people have labeled it, the Poop Palace. I think collectively think that this is the right thing to do for the ratepayers of our area, and especially for the staff and everyone else. I think Scott said it better than most. That, we're so cramped over at the other building, and it's nice to be able to have our staff with easy access to the building and not have to subject themselves to other things that we will be subjected to. So, with that, I will ask the clerk to do the roll call, please.
Director James Ferriman.
Present.
Assistant Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Here. Secretary Robert Uten.
Here.
Vice President Perry is excused from this meeting, and President Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments. Mr. Mosier, I think you indicated you wish to speak at a public comment.
Yeah, thank you, President Schaefer and members of the board. My name is Jim Mosier. Welcome to your new facility. I wasn't even sure I was going to make a non-agenda comment, but the one I wanted to make was about the district's website. Websites are always difficult because you don't know what kind of information people might be going to them to look for. And in my case, yesterday, we know there's, Dean and I this morning were at the candidate forum in Newport Beach. We know there's an election coming up in November. It's one of their agenda items is related to that. I was looking at the district website, also the Mesa Water website, trying to get election information. And I found it, neither of them did an exemplary job of pointing me to where I could find information about the election, and particularly who was running for the open seats on the new districts. And the other comment I wanted to make, which is kind of related to your other topic later on an agenda, but related to the website, I was interested in the rate information, whether Mesa Water could do a better job than the district is doing. And I know there are rate comparisons. I will speak about this later when that topic comes up. I would suggest to the board you might want to feature more prominently a rate comparison of this district's rates. There is rate information. It's not quite as accessible as it should be, perhaps, for the wastewater division. And you might want to compare that to rates in other districts. That's useful information for the ratepayers to see. And I know it's buried in a rate study, but it's very hard to find. Most people wouldn't know where to look for it. Thank you.
Tag on to that, Scott. We publish, we have that readily available by community on our rates, don't we?
Well, we have our rates on our website, which is easy to find. But as far as comparing with other agencies, we do one when we do a performance evaluation with CRNR. But again, the public's going to have to dig a little bit to find that. So we have been working on a rate comparison on our wastewater rates and our solid waste, and we also did one with Mesa Water. So it was something the ad hoc committee was going to consider putting in the newsletter, upcoming newsletter. We can discuss about putting it on the website. Definitely.
Okay. Anyone else under public comment? Director, do you have a comment?
Yeah. At least the solid waste rate information that we've published in the past has included about 35 different agencies, and only one of which is comparable, really the most comparable to the type of operation we run. And we've changed, and since that time, we've actually changed to a two-cart system. So what I would suggest to staff is that we limit publishing rates to the most comparable agencies. And that would, in my mind, would need to exclude the three-cart system. I'll be lobbying for that, and if the newsletter needs that information ASAP, then I don't care what you publish. But I would ask staff to be diligent about, and it also takes a whole lot of the staff time. I'd go to CRNR and I'd say which which 12 or which 2 are comparable. The most comparable, and I would put that in there, most comparable, because you're going to get a lot of feedback, erroneous feedback on other people's opinions about how to do this rate comparison. But we publish it, and it'll be ours, and so be it. But I wouldn't go out to 35 agencies, even if CRNR has 35 agencies or 100 agencies data. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Jim.
You know, one observation that I think a lot of us are aware of, but it doesn't get brought to light very often, and that is the makeup of Newport Beach has a lot of rental houses, and
Yeah.
you know, the average tonnage per household in Newport Beach is about half of what it is in Costa Mesa. So that's a very strong reason that the rates look kind of, you know, slanted. But it's a fact, and you know, it plays big into it. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks, Chad. We've talked about that before. It's really very, very relevant. Okay, let's move to item number 1, organics recycling tonnages.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're just staff's able to answer any questions.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Baby.
Wonderful.
Good. They are until they turn about 12 or 13. So.
I'll enjoy it while I'm
too.
here.
Well, what I encourage staff to do is put last year's data, you know, beside this data, just, you know, to make it a better comparison. And you could put the whole last year's data across the spreadsheet, you know, and then add it, if possible.
Good suggestion. Anything else? Okay. Code enforcement officers report.
Good morning, President Schaefer, Ed Roberts, Code Enforcement Officer, members of the board. For the month of July 2016, it was actually a relatively busy month. I initiated a series of 9 corrective scavenging investigations. For the benefit of the board of directors, I placed map references, and there's an overall chart at the back, attachment, showing the various locations of the scavenging investigations. In response to some concerns that Mr. Uden brought to my attention as far as Pepper Tree Lane, I focused some patrols in that area and actually did come up with a couple scavengers that were contacted and advised. Nothing out of the ordinary, no incidents of note to really report to the board. And then for trash containers, 92 residents or resident properties received warning notices for that month. No graffiti, and I am continuing to do my early morning patrols throughout the city, the latest one being on Monday morning that I did. I come in at about 4 in the morning, cruise the streets with no traffic, and it's a good opportunity to actually observe the scavengers. So 2 were contacted on my Monday morning.
My friend on Iowa Street still doesn't get it, that the trash receptacles need to go back in Friday.
I think he was noticed too.
Twice.
Yeah, I got Iowa.
And it's right in the middle of everything. There's major construction going on right there, and it's just. You know. Questions for staff? Any comments?
Just want to make a comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. It's okay.
I just wanted to comment that if you notice, College Park only has 1. Other than that, we're so clean.
I actually spend at least 20 minutes, half hour of my day in College Park at the tail end of my shift. I park right there by the park and then do a series of concentric patrols before I go in. So College Park gets a lot of attention.
Did you get that one on Bucknell Street, though?
Let's see, sir. There's a lot of them.
It's only during the fair.
Not on that one, sir. I'll take a look on Bucknell. If you're,
No,
whereabouts?
He's kidding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your address?
I'm sorry, sir.
The one with the USC out front, right? There's a big USC thing
There's a
out
look
front,
for the
yeah.
trash cans that are there all week.
I will pay special attention to that property.
It's the house with all the USC paraphernalia hanging
Gotcha.
all over the front.
Gotcha.
That's all you got to remember.
Well, President Schaefer, this concludes concludes my presentation. Are there any questions by the board of directors?
Any other questions for Mr. Roberts?
Good job.
All right, as always, thank you, Ed.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, alkaline battery program?
Thank you, Mr. President. Gina Serrano, giving this report.
All right, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. At the last study session, the board directed staff to provide an overview of this year's program. It's going to have a similar timeline to last year, so it's going to start on October 3rd and end on April 7th, 2017. It's going to follow the same procedures as last year. The schools will have a monthly battery collection from Mercury Disposals, and they can have more or less pickups depending on their need. And additionally, the schools will be required to collect at least 50 pounds of batteries to get the minimum reward of $300. There are approximately 30 schools, elementary and middle schools in Costa Mesa, and they will all be invited to participate in the program. It's going to be promoted in our fall newsletter as well as on our social media pages, and we've also created flyers to help promotion. And then at the conclusion of the program, staff will provide a final report of the collected tonnages and request the board to do the check presentations as we've done in the past. So that's all I have to report, unless you have any questions.
Arlene?
Do we put something in the newspaper? Because I think it's very encouraging if the parents could see that too, that this is happening. And I know from all of us who have gone out to different rewards that it's really neat how they come out just to see the school gets rewards. But they need to see this, that what we're doing for the community. Because I don't think we push it enough to make it known.
Yeah. It will be in our newsletter, but we can put it in the newspaper as
Good,
well.
good. I hope so. I hope the newspaper hears that.
Me too.
Gina, I would encourage you also probably to CC the school board or the school administration, because there may be more energy or support at the administrative level. Teachers are extraordinarily busy, but if this is of high importance to more people, we might get more participation. And it's just a CC of the letter that you're sending to the individual schools.
Sure.
I think that's one comment you hear when you do the check presentations, is the parents will say, oh, we didn't know about this, you know. It's great you're giving us $300 or whatever, but I agree with Bob that teachers have so much to do, and we don't do any kind of posters or anything for this, do we?
I did design some for this year. I don't know if we
In the past, have we?
We did in the past, and we tried to contact the school board to let us distribute them amongst the schools, but the school board didn't allow us to. And then we suggested doing like an e-flyer, but they said that we can only use the current teachers, the contact list that we have from the current teachers.
Really?
So we were able to get, participation through that contact list. But I think the newsletter would be really efficient. That way the parents can kind of encourage their teachers or contact their teachers and let them know, like, maybe perhaps we should participate in this program.
I'm really surprised about the posters, that they wouldn't let you tack up a poster at the school. I mean, we can put banners, like for the fish fry, we put banners on almost every schoolyard fence, and nobody cared, so it's too bad. Okay, any other questions for Janet? Okay, keep us posted. Good luck. Item 4.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So before you is a recommended contract, award of contract to Kinney Construction in the amount of $750,308 to perform tenant improvements at this facility. As you know, we did an extensive pre-qualification process where we selected, or we invited contractors who were interested in bidding on this project. We vetted them out by asking a bunch of questions, and we interviewed them, and we selected 6 general contractors that were well qualified and experienced in doing this kind of work. So we gave them an RFP as well as a copy of our contract, and you'll see that the bid results ranged from $650,000 to almost $1 million. The low bid was Seashore Construction. The next low bid was Hannah Construction. and then Kinney Construction. Obviously, the low bid was great. It was a great number we saw, but unfortunately, Seashore and most of the other contractors made one critical mistake. They did not include their subcontractors list in their bids. And I have a copy. Here's the RFP right here, and you can see on page 5, number 2, it says proposal list of subcontractors registered with the Department of Industrial Relations. And that's huge. And District Council Burns can go in more details if you like why that's so important. But because they didn't submit their subcontractors list, we disqualified them or considered them non-responsive. So the next one was Kinney Construction, and you can see right here, here's Kinney Construction. They have 2 pages of their subcontractors list along with their DIR number. So they complied with everything we asked for. It's up to the contractors to follow instructions, and most of these contractors did not follow instructions, so we had to list them as disqualified or non-responsive. So that's why we're recommending awarding a contract to Construction. I do want to mention that Hannah Construction did submit a protest, and District Council Burns responded to him several times and told him that his argument has no merit because of the California Public Contracts Code requiring subcontractors list, and it clearly states in the RFP they had to provide one, and they failed to do so. So we are still recommending construction with award a contract with Kinney Construction. We are also recommending 2 alternate bids on their bid proposal. One of them is to install tackable walls in the EOC. That'll be very helpful to staff, and when we want to hang up maps, photos, charts, you just tack them up. You know, it's really simple, really easy. Then the other one was I think painting the exterior of the doorway outside the building here. So the total cost is $750,308. We also budget a 10% contingency, which is about $75,000. Back in April, you approved a budget of, I believe, $845,000, so we're under that budget. So we're recommending awarding a contract, and we're still waiting for bonds and insurance, which I'm hoping will come this week. You're hoping, and it might, keep your fingers crossed, they could start next week.
Bonds and insurance from
Kinney Construction.
Kinney.
Yes.
In terms of Hannah filing a protest, are we obligated to give them some time period to respond, or have we already responded? Is that a done deal?
We've already responded. We gave them copies of the bids, all the bids, so they can view them themselves. District Council Burns has corresponded with them twice already. So we believe we have fulfilled our obligation and responded to them.
There's really no risk to us of them coming back and saying, you didn't give us a chance to respond in a timely manner. I mean, we've done the diligence that we need to do.
We responded within 24 hours after they contacted us, so we didn't wait around. So,
okay.
So yeah.
Bob?
With RFPs, you generally select the consultant based on qualifications first before you open the package to find out what their bottom line is. I don't know if it's appropriate for staff to tell me which consultant ranked best based on the response to the qualifications criteria. And secondly, and that's not too important to me, but secondly, oftentimes when we would open RFPs, we would see differences in monetary amounts for particular things that were specified to be done in the specifications. And then we would go back once we did open the package and negotiate, because the low priced RFP wasn't known at the time. I don't believe when we were evaluating when we were using the criteria to evaluate and try to select a consultant. And the low bidder, however, you select someone based on the RFP and the response to it. And I understand why you've deleted, these 2 low bids, because once you open them, you know what the bids are. Lots of times we would find things, we would get ideas from reviewing all of the criteria and how they were going to go about doing their work, and then negotiate with the actual bidder, or the low-priced contractor, and negotiate down. I mean, here you've got a number, and then you've negotiated up. Were there no opportunities to negotiate down.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mr. President, could I respond to that?
Sure.
Thank you. Director Uden has accurately described the process for selecting a consultant using an RFP process. We're beyond that stage. That would be an appropriate standard for an engineer selecting or somebody else that had professional judgment. And that would be totally the appropriate way to go. We're in a lowest responsible, responsive bidder situation in which we are required to accept the lowest responsible bid. And even adds and deducts must be very carefully delineated so that you do not use those mechanisms to use favoritism in who you select. So we were locked in. They either met the spec and were responsive or not. And once they are, the lowest responsible and responsive bidder gets the award. That's state law. And the legislature has determined,
that's a process should be followed.
yes, that this is the way we have to follow the law.
Big problem.
I was going to say exactly what Alan Burns said, and that is for the consultants, the process is exactly as stated, which is these are not the actual contractors, these are consultants, and that process of opening RFPs and evaluating the response and then reviewing dollars later is used for consultants. But this job was now similar to all the public works jobs that we do, which has to go to the low bidder. It's actually a construction contract.
Oh, so when you opened it, you saw the price.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I apologize.
Okay.
There's a public opening and a ranking, and everybody sees who bid what.
Yeah, and I've heard that probably many times also.
And Kenny's in agreement with these added costs. They've concurred that that's.
Yeah, there's a signed
Were they the
contract.
ones that-
He signed the contract. It's in your packet. So,
Okay.
So we're good to go. We just need your approval.
Okay. I'm going to open it up for public comments because I know Mr. Mosier would like to comment on this item. Sir?
Yeah, I have two comments about it. First, I think somebody has to make at least some discussion of the obvious comment that this is a large expenditure, and some people would view it as a foolish and irresponsible expenditure if there was a high probability that Mesa Water was going to be taking over this facility and not using it, because you would not be able to recapture the investment in rearranging it from the configuration it is now. So it seems to be at least something that's obviously a topic of discussion. And the other one, I don't pay close attention to the construction awards in Newport Beach, but it strikes me as really unusual that apparently out of 10 or 12 potential contractors, they went through an interview, pre-qualification process and so forth. And out of them, according to the table in the staff report, 4 of the 6 respondents were disqualified, and all disqualified for the same reason. And that, as an observer, makes me wonder, although, as Scott points out, the importance of listing the subcontractors was apparently in the RFP, there seems to have been some failure of communication, because oftentimes there's 1, maybe or 2 that disqualify. 4 out of 6 being disqualified for the same reason makes me think somehow the message of the importance of providing that list didn't get properly communicated, and maybe some of the lower bidders really would have been the better ones for the job, and maybe the process needs to be done over. That would be my reaction when you have 4 out of 6 being disqualified for the same reason.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Let me just respond in a couple ways. I deal with contractors in my business quite often, and general contractors are sometimes reluctant to let you know who their subcontractor. They basically don't want you to know who they're doing business with, because a lot of time those subcontractors don't meet the requirements, I know, from an insurance standpoint, and by putting them in the process, it could hurt them. I mean, that's just my personal observation. Second comment I'm going to make is, I think you nailed it when you said something about we should be discussing this if there's a high probability that Mesa Water District will be taking this over. Well, my comment is, I don't believe there's a high probability that Mesa Water will be taking over. Based on what we've been talking about and the research we've done and the things we've heard from LAFCO, I think the probability is very, very small that there's going to be a takeover by Mesa Water. So I'm comfortable moving forward with this. because, as you said, if there were a high probability, I might be reluctant. I don't believe there's a high probability, so I'm not reluctant.
Mr. President, sorry, another director, could I make
Go
a
ahead.
couple of clarifications just for the record? The contractors were not disqualified as part of the pre-qualification process. They were, the ones that were rejected were because they were non-responsive. So these were all qualified contractors, but they were rejected because their bids were non-responsive, and it's more mechanical. And also, the only two options you have under the law would be to accept the lowest responsible and responsive bidder or reject all bids and go back out.
Good. Rob, you had a comment?
Just wanted to say that there's a big difference between public and private work, and in public work like this, the laws are very strict. And as we know, our clerk at my office, we spend a lot of time checking licensing, DIR registration, all publishing, everything is very strict and has to be followed. So unfortunately, maybe they were more private oriented and not familiar with public works contracting.
Could be. One final comment. I made a comment to Scott about one of our bidders, the highest bidder obviously, was Swinnerton Builders, and they're huge. I mean, they are huge. You see their signs on big things all over the place. And for them to come in and want to bid on our job was, I think, indicative of the quality of what we're doing. So, just a comment. So, okay, Arlene?
I just wanted to make a comment too. Sorry about my voice. Anyway.
You've been talking a lot for the last month or so.
I would like to echo what President Schaefer said. I feel no problem with the takeover. I feel that we're going forth in the way we should, and I'm very positive on everything, and that there's no room for Mesa Water to feel that they could even go into a study, which they did, because, you know, we're very comfortable with what we're doing, and we're the ones that are going to forge ahead.
Good. Bob, I think we should.
Well, I didn't hear Mr. Mosier say there was a great probability. He just said, you know, this is just out there.
He said there was a high probability, if there was a high probability. Am I
That's what I
paraphrasing?
said.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
You've been on vacation. Jimmy?
Fact is, we closed escrow on this place and the other place before we ever heard from Mesa Water. So that train was heading down the track before they decided to let us in on the secret.
Well said. Any other comments? Then we are looking for an action. This is an action item, so we're looking for some
Approval?
Second?
approval of Kinney Construction.
Yes.
Oh, we're doing it at this meeting?
Yes.
Because of the timeliness? Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll move.
Of Kinney with the additional.
Yeah, with the presently negotiated amount.
Very good. Second by Director, Assistant Secretary Schaefer. I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously to move forward with Kinney Construction. Okay. Very good. Nice job by staff on getting this prepared and done, and off in a timely manner. So we have documents to sign then today. Okay. All right, item 5.
I am going to turn this over to your district council.
Al?
Thanks, Mr. President. This is just the public announcement of the intention to file a writ of mandate or another action to correct false or misleading statements in the election materials that might be inconsistent with the election law filed by Mesa. We do not know what their arguments are going to look like, so that will be a judgment that has to be made later, but with quick notice. We have 10 days to review their argument, but we know from reading the ballot argument what it will say, and we believe, and we have advised you that we believe that there is an impropriety in their question, that it's supposed to be fair and impartial and not suggest the answer. And I think anybody looking at that question would know that it was suggesting how you should vote on that matter based on all the qualifying language they added after shall the districts be consolidated.
Okay.
And we did set it up for a closed session because I think it might be appropriate for the board to have other questions, but we could at least have a public discussion about what we're doing so that we didn't keep the public totally in the dark about it.
Okay. Can I make a comment on the chamber? That's a public, right? But is the chamber released their opinion on what they think of this?
They released a letter. They sent a letter to Mesa Water.
They sent it to Mesa Water?
Yes.
And in that letter, they said that by combining the billing, we could save a ton of money?
Yes.
We don't even bill people?
Well, we don't. The county does.
Right.
The county does. But we pay the county to bill people, so.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Go ahead. Go ahead, Arlene.
I just wanted to comment on the part that our manager, Scott, and myself went to the Orange County Board of Supervisors. Don't mind me, I'm still sleeping. Anyway, supervisors and our manager made a presentation. In doing so, I just wanted to go on record that the supervisors pointed out that once this is declared and put into effect as a ballot, which was their last meeting, that they cannot do any kind of campaigning, that they're not allowed to by law. And they said this to their manager, Mesa Water District, Paul, when he got up and was talking. And they said, "You do understand this?" And he said, "Yes, I do." So I just wanted it known, because as we go on into this, they shouldn't be campaigning off of this. This is illegal. So.
Yeah, I think to kind of tie with that, it was interesting that their general manager had gone to city council to give a report on the drought situation, and he proceeded to talk about this matter to the city council. And I know Councilmember Foley had posed several questions to him that he wasn't really prepared to answer. And so I appreciate what you're saying, Arlene, but they've already started campaigning, as far as I'm concerned, by doing stuff like that. It even surprised the council members, from what I understand, that they thought that Paul was there just to speak on the drought, and he decided to talk about this. So, interesting. Bob?
Well, I think we ought to consider, well, I don't know if it's appropriate, this is a question for Alan, but former Director Fitzpatrick it's going to run for the Sanitary District Board, and he has the same comment in his candidate statement. Former Director Monahan is also going to run for the Sanitary District, and he has a softer comment, but is it appropriate for us to spend, would it be necessary for the public?
Maybe if I could give an overview of how the law works in this area, because I hear the question being raised. It's okay to put out information, to get information out about an issue. It's okay to take a political position, and it's okay for you to all individually advocate on your own time without using government funds. What is not appropriate or lawful is to use public money to attempt to influence the result in an election once it becomes an election. So you'll be putting out a lot of information about what are the facts, without saying please vote no. But there'll also be an argument, and somebody will sign an argument against, and that will be by probably you folks in your individual capacity, and it will say, I assume, vote no, and that will be done on your own time without public resources being used to prepare that argument. So the one thing we cannot do is use public money to influence the election. But we can do information, fair and impartial, and you personally can take positions and advocate, and even staff could advocate on their own time. But you can't use public money to try and win a result, because the founding fathers said that would lead to government trying to perpetuate themselves.
So would they be allowed to do workshops?
Yes, if it was fair and impartial.
Education?
Yes.
Oh, we could too.
Yes, we could.
Of
course we could.
Yeah.
The action that we're going into closed session for, will that require public monies expenditures for,
Yes.
get the language out of the.
Yes, and that's all right.
And that's just a superior.
You're trying to make it fair and impartial.
Yeah.
You're saying they did not make it fair and impartial. You're trying to correct that.
Right.
You're not trying to have the ballot say, vote for us. You're saying, just make it be neutral.
Factual.
Shall it be consolidated?
So, but with Fitzpatrick's making the same kinds of statements in his candidate statement, it would be an individual that would need to bring that up. And would it also be someone who's running, would it need to be another elected that's running?
To file a ballot argument, or
Yeah, to file a ballot.
it wouldn't have to be, but we'll see what the rules are for who the succession. I suppose they probably, those rules have to be done by the elections official.
I think he wants to challenge. He wants to see if an individual elected official can challenge the candidate's statement.
No, they definitely can.
They can do that.
Who?
Yeah.
I think anybody can do that, can't they?
Sure. Oh, you're talking about challenging their candidate statement in the
Yeah.
ballot? Yeah.
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 It would
Yeah,
take
based on
the
false and
election.
misleading statements,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that was done at a recent Mesa Water election.
Yeah. But it was an elected, it was another guy
It
running.
was incumbent.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go to closed session, I'm going to open it up for public comments because Mr. Mosier, you've indicated a desire to speak on this item.
Yes. Thank you again, President Schaefer. In the non-agenda comment, I mentioned I'd been looking at the Mesa Water website, trying to find election information. Specifically, what I was trying to find was the ballot measure and the time windows. I know there's a time window for reviewing and challenging the ballot language. Usually, when they adopt a resolution that they're going to post arguments, the clerk or election official in that resolution sets the time window for when those arguments will be available for review. I could not find any of that information. I don't know if this organization knows what that information is, and if not, how the public finds out. I'm going to be affected by this election, and I don't know where to find that. I don't know if the election officer is at Mesa Water, or it's the county registrar, or who it is, or how I find out. Regarding the restrictions on using public money for electioneering, I think that's a really extremely fuzzy line, because I think we all understand what one person thinks is impartial information being published just before an election. Somebody else will say, well, you didn't say vote yes, or you didn't say vote no. Obviously, you think of that of Mesa Water. The only reason they're publishing their information right now is even if they don't say vote yes, they're telling you that's the obvious vote.
Sure.
So that's a fuzz. But to me, the whole election is silly. It's pointless, because however it comes out, it's not binding on anyone. It has no effect. And they say in their resolution, even if it was voted no, it doesn't stop them from going ahead with their wish towards consolidation. So the real argument is before LAFCO, I think, that will be coming up. Although this may play into your ballot arguments that you would want to make. I was perhaps not clear. You were thinking I was talking about the trash rates. What I am affected by the wastewater rates, and I am concerned whether I'm actually going to get a $650 rebate, and whether my wastewater rate is going to be rolled back by 28%. And the rate comparison I was talking about is the one that's in the wastewater rate study, which I've seen one here, I've seen one in Newport Beach. I have to say they were both prepared by HF&H, so I would like to see it from more than one person, but that rate comparison shows I'm already paying the lowest sewer rate of anybody in Orange County aside from the city of Fullerton. And when I go to the city of Fullerton website, where the sewer function is consolidated into the city function, the reason their rate there is so low is because they had not been charging anything, and it's highly subsidized, and they're just charging a token amount, which on their website says doesn't even come close to paying the cost of the sewer maintenance. And the second thing I find odd about this is that this going to a Mesa Water meeting is their study that they put out. and it's showing their savings of $15.6 and $2.7 million. And I noticed the little asterisks on two of the lines here. $13.6 million of the $15.6 million savings, and $2 million of the $2.7. Asterisk says the same savings could be accomplished even independently without going through with the consolidation, which is not clear from the ballot measure. And the savings are all coming from
the air.
This is what I tried to say earlier. If that was true, this agency needs to do some soul searching as to whether those savings are really there. But it doesn't say consolidation as a prerequisite to making the savings. So, but those are my comments.
Thank you. I think this agency's done a lot of soul searching over the last couple of months, and we're comfortable with our position, and I think that's kind of a unanimous sentiment. So, anybody else from the public wishing to speak on the item? All right, then I'll close the public comment section and move us to closed session.
Well, instead of kicking everyone out, we can just pull our chairs and go in the office next to her. If you want to do that.
That's completely okay with me.
Instead of kicking everyone out.
Does anyone from the public want to stay?
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, Mr. Mosher had a question about timing and ballot. Is that something you can provide in Nolani?
I can provide
I
it.
thought so. So
It's also in the candidate handbook.
yeah, it's in the candidate's
And
handbook.
OC Registrar of Voters has the candidate handbook, and
No,
it's
I'm
in.
talking about this ballot measure.
We don't,
When the
yeah.
arguments
We-
are due when the...
We don't have it yet. We're looking for it
We haven't
also.
filed it yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been established yet. We're looking for it also.
Well, once it's established, Mr. Mosher, I think Nolani could provide you with that.
Yes.
But it's not established yet.
It's a pretty short window, and I think it's in the candidates. It's in the
10
candidates handbook.
It's in the
days.
handbook.
And it's on the OC Registrar's
Yes.
candidate
Yeah.
handbook.
When I sit down, I always remember I forgot to say something. I was looking for the
Go
Costa
ahead.
Mesa Sanitary District rate comparison on wastewater. I was also looking for a water rate comparison to see if Mesa Water is really providing water at an extraordinarily low rate, because they don't seem to be planning to roll that back. They're planning to roll back the already lowest sewer rate. So both districts, I was hoping to see a comparison, so I could see, I know they have a study saying that they're extremely efficient, but it didn't say that they're a low-cost provider. You know, as a voter, we'd be looking for that information too.
I think they're looking at raising their water rates, is what my understanding was. So, so Peter has to pay Paul, essentially. So,
You can look in, Jim, you can look in their budget. It's in their budget, but it's not by agency. It just says A through X, and they're the lowest. So it doesn't give what agencies they compared to, but it's in their budget documents.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis.
I was just going to say that they're in a, I think, year 2 maybe of a 5-year rate increase. And 7% of that rate increase is just to accumulate for their reserves. So there's a water rate study out there on their website if you can find it. Because there's no minutes. Or
There's no minutes or any recording. Okay. With that, then we'll move to another room.
Yeah, we'll go over there.
Adjourn to closed session.
Then we'll adjourn to closed session. Report that the board has given staff direction to file a writ of mandate. Any questions? Any other comments? Any other director comments? Future study session items? Let staff know. Okay. With that, I will adjourn our study session to our next meeting, which will be our board meeting a week from Thursday, the 25th. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned.